Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us today for this exciting webinar on digital transformation for nonprofits. I'm Matt Faulkner and I'm really excited to be here with all of you. We've got a fantastic lineup today and I think it'll be really valuable. Here's what's on the agenda. First, we'll talk about what digital transformation means and why it's a game changer for nonprofits. Then we'll hear from Tina Barkis, finance director at St. Mary's Center, who will share their real world experience with digital transformation. Finally, Rajiv, our CEO at Mirketa, will discuss the latest trends, especially how generative AI and data analytics are making a big impact and the importance of having one unified system for nonprofits. We'll leave plenty of time for your questions at the end, so jot them down as we go through the session. Sounds good? All right, let's dive in. First, I am your moderator, Matt Faulkner. I've been in the industry over 25 years, including a decade in healthcare consulting. Looking forward to working with you today. I've also got with me Rajiv and Tina Barkis. Rajiv, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, you all. I'm Rajiv Kumar. I've been in the industry for about 30 years now. I manage the team at Mirketa. I'm excited to be here. I think it's a privilege to be with Tina on the stage today. Tina,
And Tina?
over to you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Tina Barkis. I'm the Director of Finance at St. Mary's Center, and I'm happy to be here with you all this morning to share our journey.
Thank you, Tina. Let's kick things off by talking about digital transformation. So, what exactly is it, and why should nonprofits care? Simply put, digital transformation is about using technology to make your organization run smoother, faster, and smarter. Think about it like upgrading from an old flip phone to a smartphone. Everything becomes more efficient, right? Well, that's what digital transformation does for nonprofits. It helps you use data and technology to make better decisions and improve operations. Digital transformation isn't just big for big corporations. Nonprofits need it just as much, if not more. It helps you do more with less, and when you're working with tight budgets and small teams, every bit of efficiency matters. Whether it's automating manual processes, improving how you manage donors, or streamlining internal operations, digital transformation can really drive growth. Of course, it's not always smooth sailing. Nonprofits face unique challenges, limited resources, tight budgets, and teams that may not be super tech savvy. You might think, we've done things this way for years. Why change now? It's kind of like trying to bake a cake without the right ingredients. Things really could get quite messy, but with the right strategy, you can overcome these challenges. So, where do you begin? It's about setting smart priorities. You don't have to transform everything at once. Focus on what's most important. Whether it's improving donor engagement or streamlining internal processes, break it down into manageable steps, create a plan, and start from there. It's really that simple. Now let's dive into a real world example. I'm thrilled to introduce Tina Barkis, Finance Director at St. Mary's Center. Tina is here to share her experience, the challenges her organization faced, how technology is helping, and her advice for other nonprofits. So Tina, I know St. Mary's has been doing some incredible work for the community, but like many nonprofits, there were areas where you saw room for improvement as you prepared for your digital transformation journey. Can you share a little bit about St. Mary's and walk us through some of the data challenges you faced?
Sure thing, Matt. So St. Mary's Center has been around since 1992. So we are a pretty, we've been around actually since 1973. And recently we celebrated our 50th anniversary. So we've been around for quite some time. So, as you imagine, like you were saying earlier, when folks will say, well, it's been working for us all this time, why change things now, right? That often comes with agencies that have been around for quite some time. What we do at St. Mary's Center, so I would like to start there. What we do at St. Mary's Center is that we provide transitional housing and housing navigation services for um, unhoused seniors 55 and older. We also have a preschool, and basically, the work that we do is very heartfelt work in the community. We also provide breakfast and lunch for seniors, and we have a Sunday lunch, a Sunday dinner that we provide every Sunday. So we do a lot of good work in the community, deep roots in West Oakland. And but as you know, with all of that work comes lots of data and information that has to be stored and compiled and synthesized, and funders are needing that information from us to hold us accountable for the work that we do. So, one of the things that, as I mentioned, we provide breakfast and lunch for our seniors every day of the week except for Saturday and Sunday. So, with that, we have to take attendance, right? So, we want to track how many folks are coming in, how many folks what the trends are so that we can prepare accordingly. For many years, that has worked on manual paper, right? Check-in sheets. However, as we all know, with any manual task, there's room for error. And so, with some of the new upgrades, that's, the technology that I'll talk about in a minute is going to help support that process to be more efficient. For me, I'm really big on efficiency, working smarter and not harder. My supervisor jokes with me often and says that my middle name is efficiency. So I really take pride in that. So one of the things that we have been doing over the last year is just kind of looking at our different systems, figuring out how things work together, where we can streamline services, et cetera, and also transitioning ourselves to prepare for new programming and some changes that are happening within the state and the county where our agency resides. So, saying all that to say, lots to do, lots to manage, and manual processes just don't work. So we are in the process of implementing a new system that will allow for us to scan in our seniors when they come into breakfast and lunch so that there's automated attendance tracking. It will also help support breaking down some of the silos between departments as it pertains to our intake process, because our intake process will now go digital. Our referral process will also go digital, and information will be able to be shared across departments, which actually increases our communication and reduces those, areas that are prone to, either duplications or miscommunications, et cetera. So we're really excited about that. A lot of it just came about, by just jumping right into it, basically. It seems like we did. Um, but, it was also necessary because we're in a post-pandemic world. And I think during the pandemic, folks realized the need for this, digital transformation. And so it has been uh, the space that a lot of agencies are in right now. So we're not, it's not just limited to St. Mary's Center, but a lot of nonprofit agencies worldwide has realized the need for that and has started to make those transformations. So we're really excited about our new digital intake and our new digital attendance tracking with the bar scanners. I can't wait to get my hand on one of those. I just think it's kind of cool. Um, and ultimately, the goal is to be able to create impact, right? Impact as it pertains to reducing staff burnout, right? Because when you have folks that are out there working with, you know, high level trauma, folks who have experienced a lot, it takes, a lot. It's emotionally, draining at times. So having to do that really hardcore felt work and then come back to the office and be bogged down with the minutia of administrative work is just kind of, it's a lot. So I think with this new digital transformation, we will also increase our decrease our employee burnout and also just create higher impact because now we can have more data to make more longer futuristic strategy planning and stuff like that. And just back to what I was saying earlier, working smarter and not harder so that we can now be able to help even more people because we have that time back, right?
Mhm.
That was once spent on, the manual processes. So,
That makes
yeah.
sense. That makes sense, Tina. It sounds like there were definitely areas where you could streamline things there. How did the manual processes affect your overall operations? Were there any like specific challenges that stood out to you and the team there?
So I think it was more, if I were to pick one, it's just the silos, right? Because we have one department that's focused on one area and another department that's focused on the other area. So, um, not having that shared information can oftentimes create a break in communication, right? And we know that communication is essential to being able to do efficient and streamlined work. So I think the one of the major things that's going to happen is with the digital intake, the universal intake process that we've created will really be a game changer. Yes.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
you mentioned data silos earlier, and I know those can be difficult for sure in the nonprofit world. How did those affect your ability to really get a complete picture of your operations by having those data silos?
Right. So I remember a situation where I was doing a report and it took me um, almost 3 days, right? Because of the silos, you have to then run one report one way and then one another report another way, and then get information from one department and then the other department, and then now compile, right?
Hmm.
So data silos will um, a report that once took me 3 days. Now that we're able to streamline that process, it's a report that we can run directly out of our database, right? So you're saving like an astronomical amount of time. So I think one of the things is that now, you know, also noticing, me being the finance person that I am, is like, oh, okay, we don't need as much manpower as we once did in order to do the work. So that is another area of benefit that was discovered when, identifying those data silos.
Awesome. It also sounds like there were really a lot of clear opportunities that you saw for improvement. So, how has technology helped address the challenges and create a more efficient system for you?
Yeah, like so as I was like mentioning earlier, just streamlining our services, um, making our processes more efficient, having all the information in one place so that we can do more comprehensive data analytics, um, and then get that time back, right? Like I was saying, being able to create more impact by providing more client care versus, the additional like over redundancy of paperwork, right? So um, it's a game changer. Like I've been extremely excited about it, sharing it with everyone, and it's really going to relieve some of the pressure I feel of that, administrative burden.
Man, it sounds like these changes have made a huge impact for you so far. You mentioned earlier, and I wanted to double click into it, employee burnout. How has this system, or how is it intended to affect the team to kind of help reduce that burnout?
Right. So what may have once taken someone 2 hours, and now it takes them 20 minutes, and then they can spend that time, you know, debriefing and, having, less stress around the paperwork, right? I think that in itself, right, it just kind of reduces the pressure of the work. Being able to have the proper information that you need in real time so that when you go out to those encampments or you go out to do visits, that you're fully informed with what you need, and everybody has a um a clear picture. I think just the different things that that comes up in real life situations when there's a break in communication. So I think that in itself will help to reduce burnout. Just getting that
Absolutely.
time back and being able to focus on the things that's most important versus the paperwork. Nobody likes paperwork. No one wants to do the administrative side. Like nobody wants it. Like we all know
Nobody
that.
wants that.
It's not a secret. So I mean, if we can reduce the amount of time folks are spending on the paperwork, I mean, that's a win in itself. Yeah.
I'd have to imagine that affects also the experience of the seniors as well, right?
Right, right. So, less time doing the intake. And like I said, being able to have shared information so that our case managers are prepped and ready to go and have some of the background information that's needed to make strategic decisions around what's best for the senior, et cetera. I think ultimately the client care is going to be even better with having this streamlined system. Yes.
And thank you, Tina. That's all really fantastic. In our closing thought here, what advice would you give to other nonprofits considering digital transformation?
So I would say, first, you must have buy-in from everybody. Everyone needs to be on the same page as it pertains, because this is not like a simple, you know, undertaking like that you can fix overnight. Like this, in the world of AI and digital this and that, it can be a lot and it can be overwhelming. So making sure that everybody is clear about what you're stepping into, one. Um, of course, making sure that when you're budgeting for it, that you plan for the unforeseen, because that always happens, right? Having smart and realistic goals is important, and understanding your current processes, right? Because if you don't know where you are, you don't know where you're trying to go and what needs to happen, from point A to point B. So having a clear vision around that and a clear plan, and then involving people in the process, um, taking feedback, constructive criticism, all of it. Just continuous communication, I think is going to be most helpful for a successful project.
Awesome. Those are some really great insights, Tina. Thanks so much for sharing your experience. Any final thoughts before we transition over to Rajiv?
I would just say that just know that it's more than just improving your data in your, digital um, IT transformations, that this really is a form of impact, because, like I keep reiterating, that time that's spent on administrative work that is no longer needed, that's time that you get back to provide even more um, intense client care, which is needed. Um, Folks, your staff is less stressed because they have less paperwork to do, so that then they can provide even better client care. So there's lots of other areas that is involved that creates um, impact for both the client and the agency. So that would be my
Absolutely.
last 2 cents.
So less about the technology and more about taking care of the people. I love that.
Exactly. Hmm.
I love that. All right. Excellent. Thank you again, Tina. Now we're going to bring on Rajiv, the Mirketa CEO. We're going to discuss some exciting trends. Rajiv is going to share his insights on generative AI, data analytics, and the importance of having a unified system for nonprofits. So let's get started. Rajiv, let's kick off with a big topic, cybersecurity and data privacy. With nonprofits moving more operations online, how are they handling these challenges?
Yeah, and thank you again, Matt. And Tina, again, it's a privilege to be here with you. Before I get into the actual topic, I'll share a little experience that I had. Tina and Sharon, who's the executive director at St. Mary's, we actually met for project review in their office, which is in Oakland. And as we were, we had discussion, we wanted to grab a sandwich. And so we started walking out. And as we were walking out, somebody shows up, a senior person on a wheelchair, and she was not, in time for the lunch. And Sharon and Tina both got so worried because they really wanted to help her. They dropped their lunch. They're like, "Oh, you guys carry on," uh, and
Hmm.
then took the person inside and made sure this person got fed that day for lunch. So that was very powerful for me. I'm like, when you think about people caring for other people, I mean, that's, you guys are an example of that, Tina. So
Thank
now, come,
you very much.
yeah. Now, talking about, we're going to cover a whole lot. We start talking in terms of what are the cybersecurity and data privacy, right? So let's start with what is it, that requires that. So everybody, on a day-to-day basis, I get uh, probably not kidding you, right? Our finance team, I get maybe a dozen phishing email every day asking to pay an invoice, asking, pretending to be somebody. And our employees not only get email, they also get WhatsApp messages with my photo, talking about, how they want me to buy a coupon or some sort of transfer the money here and there. So that's is happening, right? And it takes just one slip for a big disaster to take place. And that's essentially the disaster, of course, starts. You have process component to it, you have technology component to it. So when we are looking at trends, uh, bigger companies have funds, right? They have funds to buy the top security products, whether, it costs millions of dollars to even implement some of these products to continue to monitor data and systems. Uh, that doesn't mean that smaller companies don't need it, right? So smaller companies need it as much or more sometimes I feel in the emphasis on security than the larger company. Because larger company, I remember working for banks and working for healthcare companies where you would get trained about data security. Uh, every quarter you will get trained. Every quarter somebody's going to have an attempt for, checking whether people going to respond to a phishing email or not. Smaller companies, not so much because they don't have the budget. In addition to the budget, they don't have dedicated people who are responsible for managing. What I see as a trend now, especially when you think of nonprofit that deal with a lot of personal information for people, a lot of awareness and a lot of focus on cybersecurity and data privacy. Uh, a lot of this can be prevented. Obviously, you have certain tools, the basic tools if people are working from home and things like that. You start with securing your own machines. So you have products for those. Start with governance policies, right? So what is going to be my whether what type of email you open, what type of email link that you are clicking, just creating awareness, creating policies, creating awareness, and training people on that consistently. Other piece that you could do, which is a low-hanging fruit for a nonprofit, would be how you collect data, right? So if you're collecting data in an Excel and saving it on your machine and then putting it to a system, you are adding risk to some extent because you have a copy of data that has PII information, which is residing on your computer. So instead of that, build systems that are directly taking data from the field, from a volunteer into the system. Because these systems, when you look at systems like Salesforce and other systems, they are very secure. The way people get the breaches through human errors. To avoid those. So I would say look into cybersecurity and data privacy as a initiative, and it's not just technology initiative. It is starting with policies, then compliance, and simple things like how you collect data, how you store data. If you start looking at that, that can prevent a lot of the things. There could be certain products, depending upon how big you are, what type of data you use, where you keep them. You will have certain options, how you secure your own network. Definitely, once you have a SaaS solution, they have a pretty good security. But beyond that, how do you access SaaS? How do you manage, say, data on Salesforce or something? Just designing policies around that, Matt, that's a good start.
You mentioned, I mean, trust is everything, absolutely, especially when handling sensitive information, like you're saying. So, let's talk about generative AI and predictive analytics. How are nonprofits using these tools to boost fundraising and outreach?
Right. So I would say um, these generative AI has changed the way um, I do my work. It really helps me a lot on day-to-day basis. And one of the ways you have things that would take me, a certain type of information that you need and compile a message to folks that used to take me half an hour would take me a few minutes now, right? So that's the power. So when you're thinking about donor engagement, when you're thinking about content that you want to send out for, generating interest, using Gen AI, one piece is using Gen AI to create a message, right? So you can have a compelling stories with very little effort, So if you have the right tool for Gen AI, and if you have the right prompting, any person can get a very sophisticated, compelling story that you may send to generically to your audience. Now, if you go next step down, if you are collecting this data in your CRM or donor data somewhere, you could do personalized messages. Now, it doesn't have to be one cookie cutter message that we used to send in marketing journeys to everybody. You could really send very easily a message that's personalized for Rajiv Kumar because you have some data about Rajiv, what type of events I've been interested in, what type of social activities I've been involved in. If I have that information, I could create a personalized um, messaging. Now, the other piece that you talked about, analytics, right? Now, analytics, there's certain component of analytic that goes out in personalized donor. If you have an outreach message, you are obviously analyzing data. But when you look at predictive analytic, now you could very easily have a large data set which and analyze, identify patterns, and predict donor behavior. So, for example, um, if the economy is not doing well, right? Certain type of people going to have more impact than other type of folks. There's a social sentiment that gets created in a society, right? So if I have that as a variable in my data model or my predictive model, I could very easily analyze not only, okay, here's my cost, but I can look at all the environmental variable and say, okay, here's what my uh, prediction looks like. Here's what my demand is going to look like for certain needs that people are going to have, not now, but 6 months from now, a year from now, I'm going to start seeing this type of behavior. So for example, St. Mary's providing shelters now, knowing if the credit risk is going to be high or people are going to start defaulting, if I take that as a variable, I can say for certain that people are going to have higher need for support a year from now, let's say, if that's where the economy would go. Now, those things used to take a sophisticated analyst on your team to figure out. And most of the time, just face it, even larger companies don't have that kind of analytical capabilities. People just did reporting, right? So just doing predictive reporting and having that available to uh, companies, nonprofit organizations, is a game changer.
Can I
Wow,
add
that's
one thing?
yeah.
Yes,
I
please.
was actually going to ask you, Tina, if you wanted to chime in on that.
Yes, as you were speaking, Rajiv, I was just thinking about grant writing, which is a big thing. Like anyone that's a nonprofit knows the work that goes into grant writing, and now with AI, it's very helpful to support in that grant writing process. So that is another thing that folks can consider, as well as report writing. And then the more you use your AI, the more it learns you, and and it's almost like we all have either Siri or Alexa, which I probably just turned on everyone's machine right now. Um, but the longer you have those tools, it learns you, it studies you, and it becomes even more and more resourceful. So considering, utilizing AI for all of those long reports that are needed, to be completed at the end of the year. And also grant writing is another area where it can be very useful.
Thanks, Tina. Yeah, I
Mhm.
am also a big fan of AI over here. It's extremely transformative in our opinion. Many nonprofits are actually now shifting to like going data driven in decision making. Rajiv, how can they best use data to drive their strategic goals?
Um, Great question, Matt. And earlier I said I've been in the industry for about 30 years now, right? And that has been the promise that everybody has been making, that somehow we have to bring all this data together. And I've managed personally when I work for large companies where we had all these initiatives to bring intelligence out of the data because we have so much available. The challenges that we used to have early on, just bringing it all together, right? So it starts with connecting systems. Now, that problem to a very large extent has been solved by technology, right? So connecting systems is not, it's still, there's a work involved, but it's not the biggest barrier that you have. Now, once you connect the system, then the challenge would be, and connected system, let me just add on to that a little bit. You got, obviously, you can connect different systems, but you also have systems that have pretty much everything that you would need or can build to support a nonprofit. And in my mind, Salesforce come to mind for that. And underlying theme for Salesforce is that you could pretty much take care of your member and donor and other constituent lifecycle and engagement pattern within that system. Um, you could connect all the data. Now, every company, a large company to some extent, is trying to get into that space where they are providing a common platform where you can run your analytics now, which can connect with different pieces of your organization system-wise. So Data Cloud is one from Salesforce. You will have Microsoft version equivalent of that. You will have Oracle in Suite World. They announced something similar where you have the on bigger data platform, which is enabling you to do prompt questioning, right? So if I have access to the data, I can ask data a certain question without me going to different systems now. So that is already happening now. A question there is, you have to have obviously an initiative that takes you there to the common data platform. Now, once you get the data platform, the challenge then you guys would have is data is as good as your model. So obviously there are certain things that you can get out of the box using certain AI tools that you have. Some tools need training. So you have to train your engine for the type of intelligence that you want based on your data and sometimes environmental data. So there are, if I were to summarize, there are 3 or 4 components to this exercise. One is bring your data together. So there are options through integration or maybe having just one system or more or less one system like Salesforce or having a data cloud type of platform where you bring all the data from other systems onto that. Second, which option is somewhat, the second step is somewhat easier, which is using out of the box capabilities that these data platform will provide you, that you can query things. Third is that requires a little bit of AI expertise and consulting, where you have to train a model according to your needs, right? According to the data exists in your local environment and environment, external environment. So.
And can I add one more thing back to your previous comment as it pertained to data security and PHI, like HIPAA, like those are really big deals. And it's important that you also strongly think about your data security when you are implementing these programs. It is critical. You do not want to be in a situation where a potential data breach happens for your agency because that could be catastrophic. So just wanted to add my 2 cents in on that one because I do know that HIPAA is a real big thing, um, as well as having people's private
I
information.
100% agree. And the
Mm,
advice that I would give to our clients is that you don't add security on, you build security in, right? So essentially, when you're
mm,
starting to roll out your systems, you're starting to
mhm,
design, that's when you
mhm,
are thinking. And it's a much broader topic than just having a tool that's going to detect
mhm,
intrusion. It's more of a process and a culture that
mhm,
supports security, right? So yeah, I agree with you completely on that.
mhm, mhm.
Well, of course, it wouldn't be a webinar without some technical challenges. Apologies for dropping there, but just to keep things going here, sounds like we're complete on that thought. I did want to know a little bit about the mobile technology, Rajiv. How are nonprofits using mobile platforms to engage their supporters?
Um, Again, when we talk about technology adoptions, and I always bring in my soapbox and historical references, right? So mobile adoption started long ago, right? And more or less everything that we do now is mobile, um, person at the personal level, right? It's while it's very easy to change your personal habit, it's very hard for an organization to or an industry to go adopt that because they have certain challenges, including technology and the type of folks that they deal with. So when you look at nonprofit, you have to see what is the right use cases for nonprofit, what could drive the adoption, not just for the sake of having mobile options, but uh, what are the use cases and who are the right people who are going to use it? Because if an organization like St. Mary's, uh, their constituents, their seniors, uh, they may not require um, everything on mobile, but definitely the team members do. So when we thinking about mobile, uh, one of the things that we see with nonprofit organizations, you got the beautiful CRM system. It works great. It's actually works on desktop or laptop. But my people who are dealing with finding folks in shelter and creating an initial report, or people who are finding victims of abuse, they are not carrying their laptop with them. They are in the field, and that's where you need a mobile device. Uh, and when I convert my desktop application onto mobile, it doesn't work the same way. So now I have to redesign. So when we are thinking about technology, digital transformation, we should build in mobile the same way as we built in security. So that's one aspect, Matt, because building a user experience on mobile is very much different than building experience on desktop. So we have to acknowledge and accept and design our system accordingly. Good thing with products like Salesforce's or any other product, they do provide you a very easy mobile compatibility options. So just keep that in mind. Start with the mobile design mindset. So that's one. And the second option, I say, besides the team, you have your constituents, your donors, your folks who matter in terms of supporting your cause. Now, historically, and the research suggests that the people have a better open rate on SMS messaging requesting something than an email. I personally don't open any email that's not coming from my client, but I'm forced to at least see a text message when I'm looking at my text messages because it just shows up
Mhm.
with the line. So drive more engagement through mobile if you're driving, whether it's donor engagement, member engagement. So those are the two areas I would highlight. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, Tina. What do you think for your
Well,
organization?
actually, just to correct you from earlier, our seniors actually text. They like
Oh, all
texting.
right.
They
Okay.
prefer text messages before emails, which is surprising, because of course emails have been around much longer, I think, than text messaging, right? Okay. So,
Mhm.
but yes, they appreciate text message. That's actually how we communicate and engage with a lot of folks and invite them to different events that we're hosting and keeping them informed about things. So, texting is like a big deal for us. As it pertains to the mobile for our case managers, some really cool features on there that we're hoping to test out soon. We have not really rolled out yet, but um, you can essentially do your case notes from your phone. So instead of having to wait to go back to the office to write those notes down, you can actually talk into your phone and into your Salesforce app, and it will write those notes for you, or at least a draft of them. And then when you get back to the office, you can review and make sure it is what you want it to be, and then, you know, save it from there. So that is a really cool feature and an efficient way of getting things done. Because I know oftentimes, out in the field, folks, speak about all of the different things that's happening and going on. And sometimes, get back to the office, it takes a moment to remember everything that you experienced when you were out there. So being able to have real time note taking is a game changer. Yeah.
And if I can add to you comment, Tina, where industry is going with AI, it's a great use case that you don't even have to type. You have AI, tool on your mobile, which does take notes and transcribes,
Hmm.
and they are very accurate now, right? And then the next
Hmm.
piece is how do you want to format it? You have products
Hmm.
for that as well. So everything essentially a beautiful summary and a structured note can be built just using AI, and nobody has to type
Hmm.
things.
And translation, right? So that's
And
another thing
translation,
that's,
yes, yeah,
mhm, yeah.
very good.
Great. Well, before we transition over to the Q&A session, Rajiv and Tina, could you share one final key takeaway or action item that you'd like the audience to remember as they implement the strategies we've discussed today?
You want to do Tina first?
I'll go. Yes.
Yeah,
I would
Tina, sorry.
I would okay, you said homework or takeaway. So for other nonprofits, I would challenge you to take a look at your current policies and processes and do a data like gap analysis and figure out where there are areas of improvement, and you'll be surprised that what you find, because there's always a way of doing something better, faster, and cheaper. That is like in the words of my um, business professor. He always emphasized that. So efficiency is key because, of course, like I keep reiterating, getting that time back to focus in more on client care is essential. So that would be my
Thanks,
final
Tina. Rajiv?
word.
Yeah, and Tina, you took a lot of my points. I'm gonna rethink new ideas because I would say that's the fundamental what you just said because that's like step zero. Um, if you were to take something, if I were to recommend something to a client, I would say uh, you stay relevant by adopting technologies. And I understand nonprofit don't necessarily have technologists on the team. That doesn't mean we can't really learn from others, right? So learn in terms of what's happening in the technology landscape and how it can help. So while you're thinking about methods and procedures and processes that you know the pain point, but also flip side is, and if you don't have in-house capabilities, then have somebody that you trust, a partner that you trust, who can help you run through some ideas on what mobile or what AI or what cybersecurity things can do for you and how you can build a roadmap around that, right? So think ahead, and especially around AI, I would say think how AI is going to transform your business because that definitely will.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rajiv and Tina, for sharing your valuable insights with everyone today. We've really covered a lot of ground today, from the challenges nonprofits face to the exciting ways technology can transform how we operate. Now we want to hear from you, our attendees. It's time for our Q&A session, so feel free to drop your questions into the chat. I've seen some Q&A coming through as we've been going through the session here. We'll get through as many of these questions as we can. First one is for Tina. How did you get leadership and staff buy-in for the digital transformation at St. Mary's Center, and how did you get past, if there was even any resistance that you might have had for change at the organization?
So, um, hmm. So of course, knowing your audience, like who are you pitching this to first, right? Fortunately for me, our leader, our executive director, I didn't need to get buy-in because she was already sold, right? She understood. It was just like, okay, how do we do it and where do we start, and find some money for it, right? So, um, but having folks to understand how it will impact them directly in their job directly. Like, this thing that you're doing that is probably a headache. Imagine that only taking you 20 minutes,
Mm.
and now you can have more time to do, why. And so I think just, I don't think you can sell it to like leadership the same way that you sell it to staff. So understanding your audience when you do go to make these pitches so that it's relevant to them and then they see the value in it. I think is probably the best approach.
Well, you sold me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
next question is for Rajiv. What are some key metrics nonprofits should focus on when measuring the success of their digital transformation efforts?
Yeah, that's a good one. Um, I think what often people forget that all these technology initiatives, organizational change initiative, they start because of a problem or opportunity. So your transformation effort has to be grounded in a solid business case. And that's what drives the metrics. So if my transformation program, for whatever reason, was to create efficiency, then I have to figure out how my efficiency would be measured. And that's built into your solution. You can't do that after you've done it. It's more expensive, right? So you think about it upfront. Same with user experience. If I'm trying to help out my seniors and make it easy for them to interact with me, that's my metric, right? I have to measure it. Same goes with members who's in the field. How do I reduce time or the effort it takes to take notes from the field, right? So there's no one metric. Rather, stick to what started the need for that program and build that into your solution. And that's something that I advise even on our team, because when we build products, how do you even know this product is good? What feature should we even continue building? And that's the biggest challenge each product team. And when I say product, I would just say, in my mind, business owner and products, you own business, you own product. It's the same concept. We struggle with that in larger companies that I work with. You build all these features not used. So build the metrics, know what you want to measure, build it into the product upfront or process upfront.
Excellent. Well, I got one more for Tina here too. It's popping up. Tina, what advice would you give to other nonprofits that are struggling to consolidate data across departments and reduce data silos?
Yes, you have to break down the silos. You have to. It's critical. And how do you break down silos? By communicating, right? Communication is key. And understanding how things are connected, right? Taking a step back and looking at the organizational structure and how things flow between one department and the other, and find ways to create that bridge, right? Because you can't operate in silos. It's not good for anyone. So I would say start by having a conversation and figure out where the key, bottlenecks are, or pain points, and just attack them head on. Yeah, that'd be my advice.
That's great advice. Thank you, Tina. I've got just one more question here, and I want to let everyone know that we do still have some time, so please get your questions in. This one is for Rajiv. Rajiv, as nonprofits adopt mobile and digital technologies for donor engagement, how can they balance privacy concerns with the need for more personalized outreach?
That is a very interesting question. Making me think. Uh, how do you address privacy concern with any system? And it sounds like maybe I keep saying the same thing. Uh, you and this is something that over the years that I've learned. When you're designing system, you keep privacy and security as one of the key parameter that you're going to be exploring, right? So you build that into the system, and process a system is an extension of a process, right? So if I am collecting data, and my job now throughout every step of that process, which may include system steps, I need to protect the privacy. I need to protect my data. So what you do is go through and this is not, it may sound like a large exercise, but it's really not if you know what you're doing, right? So I know that I'm going to collect data from field, and I know that, okay, how am I going to collect data? You break it down and you say at every step, even if I'm using manual process, how am I going to protect this data? And once you start thinking about what this data is going to be used for, put that another angle. So once you start thinking about these key points upfront, whatever activity that you're going to define, you don't need a system for you to protect your privacy. I can have a very robust process that has privacy built into my process because I have thought through. So the point I'm trying to make is think it upfront, make privacy as one of the key criteria for your system or process design, because that's where you're going to start seeing a lot of holes. Technology can help you. Product like, again, I keep going to Salesforce. Um, Salesforce, when it comes to data privacy, security, it's probably second to none, right? So there's so many ways you can protect your data, so many ways you can share only partial data or anonymize data for certain people. So you keep privacy for people who need help. You don't necessarily need everybody's name and address published in order for you to provide a meal, right? So that would be my thing. Just build that in your mindset and culture and build your process and system around it.
Awesome. So building with the end in mind. Great suggestion there. So I don't see any more questions from the attendees today. I think this was a great session. So that's a wrap for today. I just want to give a huge thank you to Tina and Rajiv for sharing your insights and to all of us
Can
for joining. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add one more thing. I realized that I did not do this, and I
Oh.
have to. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a good salesperson for our agency, if you will. But just wanted to emphasize and give, just a little bit more on St. Mary Center. Like I mentioned earlier, we serve unhoused seniors, and seniors are actually the fastest growing unhoused population. We all know that we're experiencing a major housing crisis right now. But our seniors, we have to take care of our seniors. They're very vulnerable. And so if you all are interested in knowing more about St. Mary Center or wanting to volunteer or donate or whatever, you can go to stmarycenter.org and find out more information about our agency. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tina. And likewise for Mirketa, if you're looking to see the type of work we've done, interested in learning more about our nonprofit practice, please go to mirketa.com. I hope today's conversation gave you actionable takeaways and got you excited about what digital transformation can do for your nonprofit. If you do have more questions or need any additional info, feel free to reach out. We'll be sharing more resources on upcoming events real soon. Thanks again and have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye
guys.
bye.